This season of Beedie on Eyewear, the podcast, is brought to you in partnership with Orbis UK, a vision charity with a mission to create access to eye care around the world so everyone has a chance to thrive. To find out more or to see how you can get involved, visit orbis.org.uk. Enjoy the show, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and let us know what you think in the comments.
The majority of people don't have a Caucasian nose bridge that's like high and thin.
Yeah. Are you really a good designer if you can only design for yourself, right?
It is so much of our identity. Like if I took these off,
I wouldn't even know you were.
Yeah, because like, let's be real, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't live that life.
When it's something that you require, you need to see, it not fitting, it not being comfortable is kind of crazy.
Is it universality or is it inclusivity? Like,
how do you think people, designers, brands could go about improving their designs so that it caters to more people?
There was I don't know if I can call them out.
Welcome to this episode of Beedie on Eyewear, the podcast for optical professionals and eyewear lovers. I'm your host, Beedie, optometrist, content creator, and spectacle maker. Let's get into today's episode. So today we have Alice. You are Alice.
I am Alice.
Alice, I'm really happy that you are here. And that you agreed to do. In fact, you actually approached me, right?
Yeah, I think I asked.
I went back through our DMs and I was like, let me look and see.
I've got something to say.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I was just like, this is such an interesting topic that I don't know that much about. I sort of probably know more the European version of things. So maybe before we get into everything, if you can kind of just explain to people who you are, what you do, and then we can get into the meat and potatoes.
Beautiful. Okay, so I'm Alice Hargreaves and I'm a designer, frame maker and repairist, I guess. Mm-hmm. I might decide I'm something else tomorrow, I don't know. But
and
that
works
is
your
for
right.
now. Yeah, I'll decide tomorrow morning, but for now, that's it, yeah.
So you are a frame artist and I guess a designer in general, right? Mm-hmm. Because you went to Central St. Martin.
I did, yeah.
Which I know of. I'm not technically a designer girly, but when you watch enough Project Runway, you kind of know, the schools to look out for. You kind of know, So when you told me that, I thought, oh, so you design.
I guess. Yeah. Do you want me to tell you about it?
I would love you to tell me about it.
It's a cool place. It is a really cool place. Mm-hmm. You don't learn a huge amount of hard skills, but it is like an incredible building of like such talent and everyone. Really, you're expected to like teach yourself quite a lot of hard skills, but there's everyone in the building that's there that like is just like a completely untapped resource. Yeah. And I think I'd speak for most like art school kids when I say that like when you first come out, you want to just like rip it apart. But I think if you want to do that, they've done their job because like what they teach you to be is kind of critical. Okay. And to question what's around you and kind of own the fact that you have like a practice and you have an opinion and like you can make space for that
and a
opinion.
Point of view as well.
Yeah. And that you can like convey that through like visual ideas. And I think that's probably how I've ended up like so interested in this topic, to be honest.
Yes. And so because we haven't actually said so far, what is it that we're going to be discussing today?
We're discussing universal design, I guess, in the space of eyewear and kind of eyewear history. Yes. But more specifically from a non-Western standpoint, because I studied quite a lot in the end of my like time at uni. I studied kind of like a non-Western eyewear perspective, and it frustrated me. On, right? Yeah, and it frustrated me that like that doesn't seem to exist anywhere. Yeah, and to be honest, it started from the fact that I was scrolling on a TikTok.
Yeah, I remember you saying this. And TikTok is that girl. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and so I was like scrolling, and up came this TikTok of this girl who was black, and she turned around and was like, I've never noticed that my frames slip down my face, and I've only just realised now that that's because they're not touching my face. Yep. And like, as someone who designs objects and is really interested in, my main like interest when it comes to design is the relationship that a user or a wearer has with the object. So it's that like conversation that happens when two things come together. Yeah. And I was confused because technically this is like a universal piece of design. Everyone wears it. It doesn't matter.
Yep, exactly. Whether it is because you need prescription or whether it's because you need sun protection or whether it's because you're hiding from people or whatever. There's many reasons why loads of us, all of us, I would go as far as to say, wear glasses.
Exactly. Yeah. All around the world. Yep. And yet they are two windows with a little bridge across the middle that lays on your nose. Mm-hmm. And there's this girl being like, this doesn't fit me. And I'm like, how did that happen? Yeah. So it kind of, I fell down a bit of a rabbit hole into there must be like a story here or a history here that doesn't make any sense, because I'm not stupid enough to think that the whole human race just kind of got it wrong for like what really is the majority of people. The majority of people don't have a Caucasian nose bridge that's like high and thin. Right? So why is the design that we're using lending itself to that?
Yeah, I would agree. Maybe we go back into the evolution of eyewear, right? Like the history of eyewear, because the people whose stories get told are the people who like are most in power, right? So like the people who dictate the narrative, I guess so far when it comes to eyewear has been maybe like Italy or France or all that kind of stuff. And so we're kind of aware of how things started. You know, you had like monocles and you had like lorgnettes with the thing, and you had like, you know, the pince nez, and you had like all those little things. And then eventually we get to what we wear now. There were developments and things happening in other places, right?
Yeah, for sure there were. And yet it's kind of up for discussion. I've found hardly any text on this, but there is one lecture from like a university in St. Louis somewhere from about 1900 that goes through the history of eyewear, and it really is discussing like whether it developed in the East and in China, or whether it developed in what we would consider to be like Europe now.
The West,
and mainly Italy, to be honest. And it decides to settle on the fact that it came from two male Italians, one of which was a monk, which makes sense because that would have been the person who would have been reading, so it would make sense to have visual aids. But there is evidence to suggest that people were wearing lenses in front of their eyes since like the 13th century. When I found this out, I also found a bunch of little sketches of like solutions that didn't have bridges at all. And then this text goes in to talk about the fact that these solutions were replaced by like European exports that were better or were considered the perfect solution.
So these solutions, which weren't reliant on the size of the bridge and all that sort of stuff, where in the world were those things happening?
China, mainly, or what is China now. They refer in the text to like Mongolia.
Okay.
So it could have been anywhere in that like Chinese empire from a long time ago. But equally, we're seeing like lenses of any kind being dug up from like archaeological sites in like the Babylonian era, like pre-Egyptian. So to say that it came from Europe feels unlikely.
Right.
And it's not to say it didn't come at a similar time.
Right, exactly.
Because really it's just the need for some form of visual aid or eye protection. But I think really the most important thing about this conversation is it depends who owns that narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Who's telling the story?
What gets told.
Yeah.
And this is really my whole connection to eyewear, is it all comes down to storytelling. For me, they're objects that hold stories.
Absolutely.
And I called myself, I guess I like work under right now, the label of frame artist, because I know frame makers and they are incredibly talented people. They have like craft running all the way through them. They experience, you know, we know those people. Both of us do. We've seen them. Like, they're incredible. But for me, eyewear is just sort of a carrier for telling stories.
And I feel like also an expression of who you are. You know,
yeah, definitely.
I feel like you have them on your face. Sometimes it's the first thing that people see. And when it comes to the way that they fit, so like that girl on TikTok talking about how it didn't fit on her nose, when it's a visual aid as well, when it's something that you require, you need to see, it not fitting, it not being comfortable is kind of crazy.
It's a problem, right?
Yeah,
that was actually my first thought, because I was not really considering like the artistic side of it, because I hadn't really got into that yet. My first thought was just
function.
Yeah, this is literally a medical aid. How could you possibly, how could that not fit? Then it doesn't operate properly.
Yeah.
Which is
crazy.
And it's kind of what drew me to eyewear and like made me kind of commit to learning more about it and working in it, is because it's this incredible object that has so many different facets. Like it's a very flat object by nature, and it has to make sense of like an ergonomic form. It is so much of our identity. Like if I took these off,
I wouldn't even know who you were.
I'd walk past me.
I would be like,
in
who
the street.
is she?
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, they help me see, and they have to sit in a certain way in order to operate properly.
Especially when you look at people who need like varifocals and things.
Yeah.
People with high prescriptions, you get your heights measured. Like it's actually imperative that you're looking through the right part of the lens.
Yeah. So for it to continually slip down your face because design kind of didn't see you, you know, that sucks.
Yeah.
And it kind of is what made me go, I need to learn as much about this as possible, because I think designers or creatives tend to take two approaches, like just sort of throw the wheel in the bin and reinvent it, or like get to know every single thing about the wheel and then better. Imagine something for a future that's different, because you can understand where it came from.
And I guess that's where you lie.
Yeah, like that's what I like doing. It's kind of really geeking out about an object, understanding all the stories it holds and kind of who holds each of those stories, whether they are told or not told, and then being able to find another solution or just another way of looking at it that's differently. Yeah.
So I remember you saying to me that, like, are you really a good designer if you can only design for yourself, right? And as someone who literally has only really designed glasses for myself, I was like, oh, wow, shots fired, yeah. But I do feel like it's a really important point, right? If you are designing for people, and I guess if we talk about universal design, it really is about designing something that can work for multiple people. And I guess with eyewear is even more important because it's a visual aids, right?
Yeah.
So in what ways, or how do you think people, designers, brands could go about improving their designs so that it caters to more people?
Yeah.
Or a
this
more
is
diverse
basically
group of people?
what the whole year before I graduated was about.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is a really hard question. How do you design something universal? And then is it universality or is it inclusivity? Like,
okay, what's the difference between the two?
Universal is about like one thing working for a wide range of people, whereas inclusivity is about being able to, lots of different people being able to access it.
Okay.
And you could argue that through adjustment, you could make something more inclusive. But it's such a hard question.
I mean, there are people, so we mentioned loads of frame makers and stuff that we know, and there are people who will make the same frame, but they will make it in multiple sizes.
Yeah,
right?
I think this is definitely a potential.
And even I guess with bespoke frames, obviously that one is one of one sort of thing. So that is potential, but then I guess...
But then price...
Right,
exactly. And a bit of me has always thought, if you design a really good, accessible thing, but you make it really expensive...
How accessible is it really?
Yeah, and then only a certain number of people can access what actually fits. And I kind of think maybe it would be better if no one could access it.
Yeah, than if only some people could access it.
People over a certain wealth bracket access it. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, if we go backwards, right? Because we were talking about how in places around China, Asia, that area, they were using, or they had glasses designs that were different to the West, right? Where they weren't relying on the nose bridges.
Yeah.
What were they doing? Like, what method was that?
The main solutions I've seen are, and they're happening in China and Japan, are weighted strings round the ears, so it kind of weighs the frame back
against
on the
your
face.
forehead.
Yeah, okay. And then to achieve like a pantoscopic tilt, instead of having all these like complicated angles on the hinges, you'd have kind of a forehead stand that kind of pushed it away from the face.
Oh, okay.
And then others would kind of loop around the ears and push away from the face, but none of them brought any weight on the face itself.
So the touch points would be around the ears
and the forehead mainly. Yeah.
Oh.
And then I guess it also depends on what you're using the frames for, like whether that be sun protection or prescription. Yeah. It's unlikely that at the time that these kind of sketches were around, which is probably, it could have been anywhere from like the 13th century to probably the 19th century.
Ages ago.
Really long ago. Yeah. It's hard to tell quite what they were using it for, which is the other part of this story that I dislike. There was I don't know if I can call them out.
I'll beep it if not. This episode is sponsored by M2M Eyewear, a London-based eyewear brand offering made-to-measure frames for opticians. To find out more, visit m2meyewear.com. Back to the show.
There was a really interesting exhibition by the Wellcome Collection called In Plain Sight a few years ago.
Where was this?
The Wellcome Collection's like on Euston Road.
Okay.
And a kind of a science museum, I guess. Okay. Sort of. But it was called In Plain Sight, and it was probably the first exhibition I'd seen in eyewear in particular. Because it's pretty niche.
Yeah.
And the way that they wrote the placards for each piece of design and like different frames from different places in the world, I felt were really telling of like who owned the narrative.
Right.
And what kind of narrative they were telling.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Because there were loads of frames that were a bit like this, like the first frame we saw with kind of just straight sides were called Martin's Margins, and they were like 1900s, I think. don't know if I've got that day wrong, but I done. And that's considered to be kind of like the beginning of frames that we see now, I think, really. There are also like frames that sit on the nose, like all the ones you've mentioned.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of frames that are from Asia, but there weren't many in the whole exhibition, which I thought, like, dig deeper.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way that their labels are written are, instead of being like masterpieces or important pieces in the history of eyewear design, they are, this had lenses in it that were near impossible to see through, and so would harm the wearer's eyes.
Belittling.
Yeah, right. Or they would be like, they have weighted things over the years, which meant that the material didn't have any ability to balance on a nose bridge.
Almost as
it
if...
was about like something wasn't there, something was missing.
Almost like using what they seemed was or deemed as missing from this design to kind of like promote or say, oh, and this design had all these things and that's why this design is better than that one.
Yeah, or at least saying, instead of it being, here's two objects, they exist differently, which we are allowed to do, right? There are loads of examples of just two solutions, because there are a bazillion different versions of human. Instead, it was, this one had all those features, this is this version, this one but without that feature. So whether it worked or not, I don't know, but to say that it didn't have something is just a bit...
And rather than considering maybe there's a reason it didn't have that thing.
Exactly. I think that's why it's so important to take the objects around you and get to know them, like understand why they were designed, who designed them, and what they were designed for. Who are they serving and who aren't they serving? And once you know that, then you can design for the people that are not being served, right? And I think going back to you had a question and I didn't answer it very well. You said, how do you like improve these designs? The project that came with my dissertation was kind of actually more engaged in like design methodology, so how you go about the creative process. And really all we're discussing here is probably designer bias, which is why when you mentioned like, should you design for just yourself, or it's definitely easier to design for yourself, right? Because you have an inbuilt bias for what works and what doesn't, and what
fits you and what you like.
And the whole project kind of really dug into that and tried to use the designer as almost just like a processing machine. So the same exact project I did 3 times, but I changed the like research context of each one to try to understand how much of a difference in final outcome would happen if you changed the research you started in.
Okay.
And by doing that, like, I came up with 3 very, very different solutions. I wouldn't say any of them were quite right yet.
Okay, so tell us about that. So you did it the first time. Tell me about that.
So I did it, the first time I did it with a co-design workshop. So I took wire to a bunch of people in a room and I got them to trace the features of their face, because it allowed me to understand how that individual worked with their own features.
How they saw themselves.
Like, if you're going to design for someone else, you can't be the one dictating how they interact with their own features.
Which I guess maybe before we go on to the second way you did it is we should maybe clarify what we mean by designer bias, right?
So I guess basically I think we all have inbuilt biases in our life, whether we are
traitors
female,
will tell you that.
That is very true. Whether you be female or whether you be from a different ethnicity or different like cultural background, different country,
different
like
wealth bracket.
Just they're just everywhere, and we can't get out of them, because to get out of them is a bit like getting a fish to see their own water. Like, you can't see what's around you and what's always been around you, but you can talk to people who've seen something different and like understand them, or try to understand them and or let them inform your decisions. And that, I think, is how you can help remove bias. And I don't believe the eyewear industry has been doing that very well, because really it's been owned mainly by Italy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as a result, there's a lot of designing for themselves in that process, really.
So first
was co-design.
I guess experiments, or I guess version of the experiment.
Yeah, I would say experiment.
And then the second one
was, I guess if you were going to be like really nerdy, you might call it like...
We like to be nerdy on here.
Yeah, you might call it like counterfabulation, which is like...
tell us more, because we don't know what that is.
No. It's like...
You don't know.
A term coined by a lady called Saadia Hartman, who wrote an essay called Venus in 2 Acts, which is really good. But basically explores a history of... She explores lots of different Black history, actually. and she tries to give a voice to the voices that weren't there
Right.
by going back in history, understanding the context, and then rewriting a story that is really semi-fiction
Okay.
to try to kind of embed a history that wasn't there. And I tried to take these original sketches, because what's really frustrating is the original sketch I was talking about.
Yeah. These are from places in like East Asia back in the day type. Yeah.
They refer to it as China.
Okay.
I don't quite know, but I'd say
China specifically.
Yeah. If you'd left those alone and they hadn't been colonized, then who knows what we would have now?
Yeah.
Like, who knows how far we would be now?
Yeah. Or what we would know as a result of those sketches.
And if those people could have designed in a space that amplified their voices and their needs, rather than being told that another solution was better.
So it's kind of like have you read Noughts and Crosses?
No.
So Noughts and Crosses is a book by Mallory Blackman, okay? And one of my favorite books when I was a kid, I read it when I was in like year 5 or year 6, yeah? And it's basically it's a world where white people are black people and black people are white people in the way that society treats them. So the one part of that book that I really, really remember is that Seffi goes to get a plaster. Seffi's like the protagonist, I'm pretty sure.
There was a there was a
they
TV.
did a BBC,
okay, I watched
yes.
the TV. Okay.
And so she gets a plaster and the plaster is brown, yeah? And I remember reading that book thinking, oh my goodness, I had never in my life seen a brown, at that stage, had never seen a brown plaster. And like in this book, because it's reversed, the plaster was designed for black skin, right? So I say that to say, if we go backwards with what they were doing in China at the time, what they were doing in Italy at the time, if the dominating narrative, or if China was the person who could control the narrative, then perhaps we would all be walking around with the forehead thing and then the weighted thing, and then that would all be the thing. But because that wasn't the case, it's almost as if, and from what you're saying, it was very difficult to try and find information about what they were doing back then. You know, that you saw maybe 1 or 2 sketches, but there's not really a detailed history that we could find as easily as, I mean, we are in the West, so maybe that contributes to it too, but
yeah, I think when I first did the project, I immediately tried to get in touch with makers in Japan.
Okay.
Try to understand what was going on. I happened to have some people that knew some people that worked in like big global companies, and I had a like video call with a guy that runs a Japanese eyewear brand. He is white and American, so it's difficult. That's hard, yeah. So I certainly wouldn't take his word as gospel, and you do see different bridge fittings, because I've also been to Japan, and it was quite a main focus for me was like, I wonder what these look like. I'm going to put on some frames and see if they're comfortable.
And see how they fit on you, right? Okay,
because how many times, and they weren't comfortable at all. Like I couldn't have bought them.
Yeah.
And it does make, like, for me, that's really important because I'm white.
That's the reverse. Yeah.
Like I've never put a frame on that doesn't fit. Like they might
yeah.
slip off my face because I'm a woman, and like we have to handle the size differences.
Yes.
Often you end up with like a big frame. But never have I put a frame on that just like doesn't work on my nose.
I remember saying to a friend, like, there shouldn't be such a gap here at the bridge.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not normal.
No,
but like I think a lot of people are like, yeah, like that's just how my frames.
Yeah, so that literally dictates how that person's relationship with potentially their identity.
Yeah. And also a medical aid. So many people just don't wear their glasses because it's like, oh, it's uncomfortable. When I put these on, oh, like my ears hurt, my nose hurts. I don't like it. So it's so much more than just, like it has to, its form and its function, like it serves a purpose. So it's really important that it fits comfortably.
Yeah, and it makes that person subconsciously feel at odds. There's
their relationship with the frame then, or the need for the frame.
Yeah,
I think it's complex anyway in terms of needing a prescription. All those things, you know, you get to 45, you're presbyopic. That whole thing is a thing, right? Like psychologically. But then also, if every day I have to put on this frame and I don't like it, it's not comfortable. Like I wonder for you how it felt for the first time, I guess, in Japan, putting on a frame and being like, oh, rah, like this is not for me.
Yeah.
But that must have been a bit trippy, like.
Yeah, because like, let's be real, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I don't live that life. And that was like the whole point of the original project, is like people do, you know, so many people do, literally the majority of people do. Yeah. Which just, what?
Is my fate.
I don't know. Yeah, I could just freak out about it all day. Yeah. And I have many days in a row.
You did a whole dissertation about it.
Yeah, I really freaked out for like 9 months solid. I freaked out. Yeah, I guess that was the design. So I kind of like, counterfabulation, or like reconsidering what one of those frames might look like now.
Okay.
that was kind of the idea.
Okay, so that was the second sort of experiment thing that you did. Yeah.
And then the third one was all based on facial data, because from my perspective, I've previously to that point in my life, I was kind of more technical and less artistic, I guess.
Okay.
And in my mind, I was like, where is the book that's just got like all the measurements in it for all the different faces?
Yeah.
And then we just take those measurements
And how do
we
we
just make a frame.
plug it into a formula and we just do it?
And I kept ringing people in the eyewear industry and be like, hey, where's the book? And they'd be like, what book? And I'll be like,
it's vibes, babe.
what do you mean there's no book? He was like, oh, we just draw that. I was like, what do you mean you draw that? That's weird. Like, what?
How?
Yeah, like, what are you doing? Just taking a pencil and just like window.
Cheeky line in the middle.
Yeah, put them on. Nice. Sells them. Like, that's how it be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I basically took facial data.
So this is when you went around taking pictures of people?
Yes, I took a lot of photos of people wearing frames and kind of tried to analyse the fit. And then I scoured the internet for facial data that included everyone in it, which is really hard to find.
Yeah.
Like,
were you able to find anything?
One, and it was made for like facial respirators for firefighters.
Oh, okay.
And so I took that data and I analysed which of the measurements of, I don't know, there was like 12, 13 different measurements, which ones changed by least.
Okay.
And there
which is the least
three.
Variation between
everyone.
Okay.
And I just designed so that it could only fit those particular touch points on.
Okay, I see. Because the chances are there's less variation between different people, so this should fit the majority of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of by like technical standards. If you
Yes.
were just to kind of really go down on paper, obviously it doesn't quite work like that because humans are so curvy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so soft and squishy, so it's hard. But it turns out like this little triangle on our face changes by like the most 75%
Yeah, I would imagine so.
of people.
Even within like ethnic groups, even within families, like that whole bit, your noses could be different and stuff.
Which really makes you be like, why is it sitting there? Why is it there? Yeah. So these were the like 3 different options, and they obviously came out with like totally different solutions.
Yeah.
And I guess for me that project wasn't really like a design project, as you say. It was more of an experiment.
Yeah.
And I think there's something in that for design, like the creative industries to take, which is kind of, here's a methodology that shows that designer bias exists, and if we can play around with how we create, then we can stay a bit more curious about what's around us.
First acknowledge that designer bias is there.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, cool.
And kind of work with it, you know?
Exactly.
Like, embrace it, cool.
Yeah.
But, like...
But also step out of it.
Yeah. And don't just ignore it and pretend it's not there.
Yeah.
I think in some industries we do really well, like, or we do better. But I don't know if accessories and fashion, we're smashing that.
I mean, I remember when we were talking about this earlier and you mentioned about power tools. And you mentioned that I'm not really a power tool girly, right? But I remember you mentioning about how there's like a circular saw might have a safety feature on it.
Yeah.
And how you were saying that they are all catered to people who are right-handed.
Yeah, like it would just say power tool and then it would say left-handed power tool. Most people wouldn't even know a left-handed power tool existed.
Yeah.
So the power tool is just kind of standard, which again, how many people are left-handed?
Yeah.
Like
so many.
Yeah, and this only happened because I was watching my sister-in-law try to use a circular saw.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't. And I kind of have made things a lot throughout my life, and I was like, why can't you hold that?
Yeah,
Like,
what's your
that's so funky. What the hell? You're weird.
Yeah.
And then I looked at it and was like, oh my God, that's not for you. Like, you're not weird. The tool is
weird. Yeah.
And that's the whole problem,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
we're looking at all these things going, you're kind of weird. Like, no,
It's like,
the
it's
thing
not
on
you,
your face is weird.
Yeah.
Like, we're just vibing.
But there's nothing wrong with your
We're just trying to get by.
There's nothing wrong with your nose. Actually, the frame just does not fit you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when the person sat down and designed it, they didn't consider. And I don't know if there's really a solution to just one design that just works, because I actually think that's a bit closed-minded.
Yeah.
Why should there be?
Yeah.
I think it's just about staying open-minded and curious.
Yeah.
So that
And
we
I
can
think
come up with
even
more
just
solutions.
being able to acknowledge that, like, oh, okay, cool, it's not me that's the problem. This is the problem with the frame or with the design, where I need to then look for something that fits me better. Then great. I mean, there are brands out there who work with wider bridges, and that's kind of what they cater to. So making sure that people are aware of what that is, or what brands those are, or the fact that those options are there. It's like, okay, cool, maybe this isn't for me. Not everything is for everyone, right? At the end of the day. But then you can know, all right, cool, maybe then I can go and try out this brand, or I can do this thing.
Yeah. Which is also, I think, why having more independent makers and more independent brands in the eyewear industry is really important. Because right now we've got a bit of a like monopoly scenario where a lot of brands are all owned by one company. Yeah. And that is cool as long as that company, well, it's not cool, but it's okay-ish if that company buys up lots of different brands. But if they're buying up
the same type of
brands, making the same type of frames, because really outside of probably London, in my experience of the UK anyway, outside of London, most people aren't even, it's not on their radar that you wouldn't just go to Specsavers or a brand. Yeah. Insert other good glasses retailers here. Or other fine glasses retailers here, actually. Then they wouldn't even know. Whereas I think we're kind of doing all right in London right now. I think
we're doing really well. And I think I'm just so happy that my mum decided to come here. Yeah. Because I feel like, great, like there's just so much here. There's just so much variety. There's so much culture. There's so much access.
And as a result, people are thinking, they're talking, you know?
And it's like what you said about the designer bias, kind of getting out of your little circle. It's kind of easier to do that in London when you see people all around you that don't look like you. Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Alice. This has been so fun.
Yeah, it's been good.
I wanted to say one last thing that I'm going to ask everyone this season, okay? What is one piece of advice you would like to give to somebody who is watching this right now?
It would be to stay curious about the objects around you, and when there is something that you love, whether that be a pair of frames or a piece of clothing, then learn about it. Like, know who made it, what factory did it come from, what was the like ethnicity, the gender, the factory, like really get into that object, like know its story, because it means that, for example, if you had, I don't know, like an Edwardian blouse and it came from a factory that like championed women's rights, then that blouse would mean more to you, you know. Or if it was a frame made by someone who spoke out about a certain thing, then you might want to repair it instead of put it in the bin when it breaks.
Cherish what you have, essentially.
Yeah, because I think it's really the only way to stop consuming things is to start building actual relationships with our objects.
I agree.
And I think it's a like quiet rebellion we can all do, is just be more educated about the things that we love around us.
Alice, I love that. That is so cute.
Drop that.
I know. Oh, I'm just like a philosopher.
Yeah, I won't be able to say that again. So,
don't worry, we recorded it, so it's fine.
Yeah, I'm glad you got that.
Before we go, where can the people then find you?
It's at Frame Artist
on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Oh no, I don't do either of those. Okay, they're hard. Okay, but there is a website, which is just www. I don't even know if you have to do the www. It's just ahframeartist.com.
Yeah, and it's a great website. I looked at it the other day. It's great. Fine. Well done, you. You're doing great. You're doing so well. Do you want to talk about your collection that you're making?
Yeah, go on then. It's almost done.
Go on then. Tell us.
It's called the Makers Collection. And again, it was an opportunity to tell a story. And for me, it's about this incredible community that you know very well that exists in the UK, but in London, I think, in particular. Yeah. And it's kind of a love letter to those people and the people that allowed me to get here, because I left a job in eyewear design just under a year ago, and I didn't know how to make frames.
Which is where I met you, actually, initially.
Yeah.
Do you remember? In Italy.
In Lido.
In Lido. I know. Look at that. I must say, yes, our year anniversary.
Cute. So cute. It's a love letter to those people that have basically taught me, because...
and mentored, been so patient.
It's a craft here in the UK that's on the endangered crafts list, and I think people know that it could die, and so they're just so willing to give. Like the people at Eyewear Limited, for example, just like incredible people. That's one of the, like, Miller is one of the people that's in the
Louise,
collection.
Miller, Roy, Reese, like, and all them lots. Jack, exactly. Jack was here last season. I'll link his episode down below. Okay,
yeah. So it's 3 frames. They're each designed to be inspired by the frame that maker considers with their journey of making. So it's about that thing that happens with craftsmanship, where people pass on knowledge, and it's about like capturing that, and it's celebrating it, because that's what's allowed me to be here.
So what a touching story. If I'm someone who wants to see the Makers Collection, how can I do that?
It will be on my website, and
ahframeartist.com,
and it will be on my Instagram, and I'm hoping it will be in some great opticians, but I can't say that right now because I don't know for sure.
Fingers crossed. Maybe by the time this comes out, we'll know for sure.
Yeah, hopefully. Maybe.
Oh, babes. Oh, I need to say, subscribe. If you made it this far, subscribe, share, do all the things that you're supposed to do when you interact with a piece of content that you like, okay? Fantastic. How are you? How did you find that?
It was good, yeah.
You feel good? Do you feel
Yeah,
good?
I think so. I chatted a lot, but I think it's okay.
Yeah, but
We
we're here to
bounced
chat.
about,
Yeah,
but yeah.
bounce,
Yeah, arguably this is chatting.
Yeah, I would also agree with this.
Yeah, it's chat.
Yeah, it's a wrap.
Yay. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome,
It
girl.
was so good.
Oh, I'm
I was so
glad.